All right. Hello, everyone. Good to see you again, Arya and Keith. P-Train in the house. How'd you know that's my nickname? At least when I played basketball. They called me the P-Train. So anyways. All right. Texture is fun. Texture and pattern. And honestly, we're going to use patterns to create texture. So it's going to be fun. Thanks so much for joining me. AF and MD, wherever you're joining me. Facebook, Twitter, all over. Hop over to behance.net/live. That's the chat I'm reading. Oh, is that a little hot? Maybe my voice is a little hot. I don't know. Hopefully it's all right. So let's dive into this, shall we? Right now, we're doing the Behance Daily Creative Challenge. As I share my screen here, here's the URL, of course. All right, and this is day 8, so second to last one. Tomorrow's my last day live streaming, so. Oh, Brian, I know. How's it going, Brian? Man, it's been 10 years. It's 10 years since I've been at Stars. Wow. Good to see you, Brian. Good to see you, buddy. So getting started, you're watching this video, but this is where you can get the getting started file right there. It is pretty simple. Honestly, you can start from your own blank document, but I give you a couple graphics in case you want to start with those. So let's click over. We can see this file. I'm going to be using my swatches panel a lot, so I made the squares a little bit larger. There are some patterns already in here that we can use, but we're going to make our own from scratch. So we'll make some patterns. We'll apply texture as well. It's going to be really fun. And again, I'm just going to start by drawing a square, right? Pretty simple, right? We're just going to make a quick checker pattern real fast. Boom, boom. If I hold down the Shift and Alt key and wait for it to snap, I get these two squares. With those two squares selected, I can drop them right into my swatches panel. There it is. Hey, buddy, you're a new pattern swatch, aren't you? Okay, moving that over, drawing out a bigger rectangle, any shape that I want. Clicking on that, obviously, we get that pattern. Super easy to work with, right? And I think simple patterns are really good, and then applying them to objects gets to be the fun part. So again, that works out pretty well. This is pretty cool. I like it. Brian, it's so good to see ya. So this is pretty cool for a checker pattern. I'm just going to move this off to the side. What if I don't want these checkers that big, right? What if I want to scale them down? Is there a way to scale them down? Well, there better be, right? Check this out right over here. We can use the scale tool, right? We can double click on the scale tool and we can uncheck all these options to just scale down this pattern to 50%, right? We could do that. So you can get really exact if you just double click on the scale tool, scaling it down like so. Here's a pro tip for you. We're going to use the same scale tool, but we're going to hold down the tilde key, the little wavy line right above tab on a Mac keyboard. So holding down the tilde key with my scale tool selected, and I'll actually hold down Shift. Well, it's getting a little crazy. I'm holding down Shift to constrain the ratio, and I can scale it down again with my scale tool, right? This is starting to look like an eye chart. Let's move that over like so. But let's grab another one. And by the way, I can actually take this. Once I get this pattern at the right size, I can go in here and I can always turn off transforming the pattern, right? So that's something you can do as well. I'm going to duplicate this just to kind of show you the two different versions we can work with. Using the second one, I'm actually going to rotate it this time. Right in here, the rotate tool. If I double click on it, I can rotate, and you know what? Don't rotate or transform the object itself, but just rotate it 45 degrees, right? Something like that. You get the idea. You can do the same thing as well right here with the rotate tool. Hold down the tilde key, click, and rotate this around to get this sort of any angle that I want, okay? This is hurting my eyes. Is it hurting anybody else's eyes? hurting my eyes. Well, guess what? We can always edit these patterns, right? We can do 1,000 things with these. In fact, let's get a little bit more complex, right? Look at that. That's actually really cool if I overlap those. Oh, look at that new pattern. Guess what? I can make a pattern with a pattern. How about that? Boom. Drop that in there to make that pattern. But let's take these graphics right here. I kind of like these graphics, right? These ones are all pretty cool. Well, what I want to do is just kind of orient these and use these as part of a new pattern, right? That has dots, all these different symbols. Taking them all, dropping them right in here. Here's my pattern. So once you make a pattern, you can always edit it just by clicking on it. Double click. Oh, now I'm in my pattern tool. Because actually, let me go back. Because if I do, oh geez, I knew that was going to happen. So again, if I apply this pattern to something else, right? Look at all these gaps that we have. We have too many gaps that I need to fix. And that's why you would double click on the pattern. You're in the pattern options mode. From here, I can say, hey, you know what? Let's have this fill this space. This is too close to those little dots. So let's move that down like so, right? Let's even have this one. Let's take this one. Let's move it clear over here. Look. To fill that space, you get a perfectly balanced pattern, which I think is awesome, right? All right. Eyes are bleeding. All right, good thing I got out of that. That was like an eye chart earlier, but you can see I have a much more balanced pattern. Let's make a cool one, right? I'm gonna do this really fast. Again, we have this squared away. Let's move that down like so. From here, I can start to use these patterns on things other than, you know, just shapes. So that's why I'm going to come in here and Vicus. Vicus, I am using your name. How about that? Just to show that it is live. Let's scale this up. Hopefully that's okay for you, Vicus. I'm actually going to, let's go all caps here. And let's make it even thicker, right? I want this nice thick letters like so, okay? And now I can come in here and apply these patterns like I'm doing like so. Again, these need to be scaled down, but I'm getting different looks for each one of these. So the assignment really is to make your own patterns. Again, this is all editable, which is nice. So Rob is much simpler, R-O-B. There's Rob. There you are. I'm going to use Robzilla. And we will just go ahead and create outlines and ungroup. So I think it's easy to take your name and start applying patterns, different patterns to each letter, okay? Still using some of these pro tips. Oops. For scaling down some of these textures. But what I want to do is I want to point out a bunch of other textures and patterns that we have. So we'll go down here to Swatch Library, right down here. Gradients, all this fun stuff. Guess what? There's patterns in here. So again, just so you know, it is the Swatch Library. Go down to Patterns. And then right in here, we can create some basic dots, sure, some decorative, some nature. I like some of these, like these Von Stur patterns. Take those patterns, by the way, I have them all open already. Grab them and move them right into your library, right? Dropping them right in. And that way I just kind of have them all in one place. I got these patterns right in here. Let's drop those in, right? Let's start using some of those. There you go. How about that, Rob? Does that work for you, man? Again, just having fun with it at this point. It looks like Tiger King, doesn't it? Tiger King. What's up, John? Good to see you. You can expand the patterns and fill with more patterns. Yeah, you could do that. Let's do a more complex pattern. People kind of know what I'm talking about so far, right? But we get these fun textures, right, going on here, right? Guess what? I can edit any one of these. Let's go into some of these cool ones. I really like this one, for instance. Look at this pattern. Look at how awesome this is, right? It's like, I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, I could also change it up and give it a stroke or edit it any way that I want. So feel free to take some of those patterns, change them up a little bit like I'm doing right now, click done, right? we can see that it's changed up that pattern. That looks really cool right now. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna do another cool pattern. Let's see what other ones I have in here. It's got a bunch of dots. Graphic lines, let's drop those in there. A bunch more dots. Look at that, look at all these patterns that I have now, okay? But let's make our own, because I actually want to make a cool like 3D one, kind of like this, right? So let's do that really fast. I showed this to you guys yesterday, but let's just go ahead and make a gray rectangle. Okay, and I'm gonna make this actually smaller. Okay, so I'm gonna just be mindful that I wanna kind of work at a pattern size, which is gonna be smaller. For this one, I'm actually gonna make it, let's make it 80 by 80. And let's go into effect. If you were joining me yesterday, this is what we did, is we did an extruded bevel. So we played with 3D yesterday. Based on that knowledge, I can jump in, do isometric left, make sure the extrude depth is also 80, right? And then we get, obviously, this this cube. And I could play with the lighting. Maybe I want it to come from like the other side, but I'm getting just some like more contrast is kind of what I'm working with. Click OK, done. All right, so there that is. Guess what? I'm going to take this, drop it into my swatches panel, and let's just go ahead and take a look at what we get in this case, dragging that out, getting rid of that. But here again is just a square. And we'll go ahead and click, and we get a nice seamless pattern like so. So this is really fun, isn't it? Right? I might want to, maybe I want to fill this with another color. If I want to play with it some more, I can double click, jump in here, and you know, maybe make this side even darker. If I want to. Let's take a look at my layers panel. Oh yeah, it is like I gotta ungroup 1,000 times. But anyways, so there's that pattern, which I think is kind of cool. Right? Cool. So we've made some patterns. Apply them to just letters in your name and get creative with it, right? We just made this fun pattern, so we could take these same letters and do something fun with it. Shall we? Shall we do something fun? Yes. Bricklayer it. There we go, Rob. Boom. I think what works best if you're going to create any sort of texture or pattern is actually just using something simple like just lines, honestly. Right? You ready for this? Drag that over. I'll select this one. This one's going to be white. That one's going to be black. This is going to be the most unassuming pattern you've ever seen, right? Dragging this right in here. Let's put it near the top. Like so, there it is. It's just that one simple line. Okay, but we could have some fun with this now. Right? Because right up here, applying that same pattern, maybe making this even larger. And yeah, potentially applying it to these letters again. Okay, but I'm going to take it to the next level. You ready? You ready, ROB? Taking these three, let's just make this gray for now. Actually, you know what? I just need to enter in new text. This is actually going to be editable, but check this out. Scaling this up. Here you are, buddy. Let's go with just a different color, for instance. And wait for it. Wait for it. I got 10 minutes. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's part of this daily creative challenge in Illustrator. Sorry I'm not looking at chat much. I'm kind of working here, guys. I'm kind of getting my job done here, okay? All right, so Effect, 3D, Extrude and Bevel. Oh, before I do this, let's click Cancel. Let's take these, just these stripes, and we're gonna drop these stripes in as a symbol, and stripes, like that, boom. We have a symbol down here now. Right? If I do another creative challenge, daily creative challenge, I want it to be around symbols because they're so powerful. But here we go. Rob, Effect, 3D, Extrude and Bevel, right? Isometric, stretch it out even more. And let's go ahead and map that pattern to it, those stripes, like so. There it is, done. Moving on along. Let's do the, oh, Rob, you got too many little curves in here. So many curves. Right, but I could go ahead and apply those stripes on that side. Let's go over here. Stripes, you get the idea. I'm just waiting for those little areas to highlight. I could just kind of go down the line and just start applying it to everything. But that's what I'm doing, having fun with your name. I hope you don't mind. Rob, appreciate you. And, wait for it. I gotta get all the little sides. But I think this is really fun. We did this yesterday. This is a continuation of yesterday's stream, really, because even if you made a graphic as part of the challenge, any one of these challenges, well, there's more we can do. Let me do this last little bit right here. Boom, there we are. Okay, done. Right? Cool. By the way, I could turn off plastic shading. I would say, hey, you know what? No shading. Make it look flat. And I think it could be pretty cool. Let me just double check the properties in here. Yeah, all right. Anyways, there we have it. I did one letter. Guess what? I actually did my name as well. Let's kind of click over here to this one. Here we go. Fun with patterns, applying them as textures. John Harmon is a guy who does a lot of this stuff. Here I mapped these to these 3D letters. I got into color, and then I got into a little bit of texture here as well. Right? How was this done? I think this one actually turned out to be one of the best ones, right? Essentially, if I roll this back a little bit, let's throw that away. Here it is. I actually just did a gradient that happened to be, wait for it, clicking this third one, a gradient that happens to be a freeform gradient using the freeform gradient tool, right? And then I turned this into a pattern. Bam! That becomes the texture for these letters right here. I don't know why I'm making all these eye charts, but apparently I am, right? But that's how this is done. I got something kind of weird on the other side. Don't notice it for me, please. But it's like this starts to look like a watercolor. So I'm like, okay, let's apply like a watercolor texture. We'll select those two letters. We'll go to Effects Gallery, by the way. Effect Gallery. These are like all the effects right in here. And in here, I can go through and pick one that I like. Okay, so again, just playing with this particular letter. I like this underpainting, right? We can control the brush size and how it gets treated accordingly. So you're just gonna play with these sliders so you get something cool, something kind of like a watercolor right there. Click done. And now what we have here is something that, well, honestly doesn't look like that it was made in Illustrator, which I think is super cool. So hopefully you liked it, Faisal and Nina and everyone. Yeah, thanks for watching. So super cool what we could do there. I can add more to it in the background. I know I'm forgetting stuff. Oh yeah, by the way, let's go to maybe other artwork that you've made. You ready for this? I still have 5 minutes, so this is good. There have been 7 previous challenges. Okay, so you have to have some artwork. I know you're submitting to this URL, right? I know I just threw that up there really fast, but everybody's creating this awesome artwork, and I hope you can take one of these that you've done in a previous submission, like this flying machine, which is so cool. It's kind of retro, so it needed a texture to it, right? It's just a little too flat here. So I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna draw a big box over it. With that box over it, I can do a couple things. I'll go into the effects gallery with just this this red. You know, I actually might go with a black. Let's try this. Let's get rid of that. Go with black. Film grain, okay? Black square, do some film grain, because really I just want this texture over the whole thing, right? Click OK. Right, now we have that texture. Now, right over here for this particular object, I'll click on opacity. I could try to drop down the opacity to get that texture, by the way. but I could probably do a little bit better if I go into, let's crank this back up, into opacity and start playing with some of these different blend modes. So right in here, we can get into lighten, for instance, and then it puts it over in a sort of a lighten fashion. And I'll probably play with it a little bit more, but here's overlay. I use overlay all the time, but now it's kind of given it that nice texture over the whole piece and just makes it look like a little bit more retro. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, you just get that nice texture. Of course, the more I zoom in, the more I can see that texture, but I can always drop down that opacity. It really depends on your output. So if this is for Instagram, I got to make sure that reads correctly for whatever my output is, right? But for you guys, I'm going to crank this up some more just so you can see it better. That's the idea. Yes, just an overall texture to the whole thing. And yes, you got to love blend modes and all that fun stuff. Thanks, Cindy. So yeah, do that with a previous piece, add some texture to it. If you could take any of these previous designs and use them as well, go for it. I'm encouraging you to. But yeah. And obviously what you can do with something simple, just some simple stripes, right? You ready? Since I have a couple more minutes, let's do this. You ready? I'm gonna make your brain hurt now. Circle. Go back. Delete. Flip it. Now we just have this one thin little line. Ready for this? We're gonna do a Revolve Effect. 3D Revolve. Zoop. And we'll just do the right edge. We just made a little bowl, okay? Inside of that bowl, let's map some art to it. Let's map those simple stripes, and let's just scale it to fit. We do have to find the right one, by the way. I have to find the right side. It's kind of hard to tell here, but let's scale to fit, and then we have a fun sort of warped texture, right? You see what I got there. And I thought this would be kind of fun for Rob. Let's rotate this a little bit more, right? So now we got that cool look, shrinking that down. And I would put it right in there, the O for Rob, right? As we just have fun with a little 3D, right? Cool? Oh yeah, by the way, last pro tip, this is very important. As I create this, I have this letter. Let's just expand this. Or let's, hold on, create outlines. I have this red. For this, I can open up the appearance panel. I can add another fill. Hold on. There's that. I can add another fill above that one, click in here, and then apply a pattern. So I can apply these squares, for instance, and start to play with its blend mode right in here. So change this to overlay. Oh, maybe not overlay. It should be darken. Oh, come on now. Multiply. Come on now. Do something different, right? So I didn't pick the best example, I guess, since this is only black and white, but you get the idea, right? It's just layering, you know, pattern on top of pattern on top of pattern like I'm doing right now, okay? Here's one we can work with. Since this has black and white, we can do overlay, soft light. You get the idea, okay? So have fun with sort of patterns and textures and all that fun stuff. Create something crazy. This is kind of where I ended up with mine. And this is what I'll probably post. I really like this one the best. And yeah, so do something with your initials is what I'd suggest, or take previous artwork, submit it. Would love to see it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. And that is time. I got birds chirping. So yeah, thank you. And again, if you're on another platform, join us on behance.net/live. Thanks, Tunk and Sarai. Do you guys have any questions? Kind of don't have time anyways. So how do you save the patterns once they're made, by the way? You could save this as a template. Save it as a template. Use it later. But, and then later on, maybe tomorrow, I'll talk about presets and like how you can make an uber magical file for your work. Okay, but thanks so much, everybody. Have a beautiful day. I really appreciate you. And I hope to see you soon. We have Claudia up next doing more graphic design. So thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you all soon.